Welcome, everybody, to Plaid Couch. Today, we have some Reddit stories for you from the Am I the Asshole subreddit. Am I the asshole for not wanting to help a stranger with her elderly parents? Context: I, 32 female, am a pharmacist. I don't work in a pharmacy, but in a pharmaceutical plant doing administrative work. My mother, 52 female, has a friend who is taking care of her elderly parents. I don't know that friend. I have never met her, and my mother met her when she was a teenager, and about 5 years ago, they met again. For a long time now, that friend has been sending messages to my mother asking me questions about medications, treatments, etc. It's a pattern now. If she doesn't understand something, she asks my mother and she asks me. Plus, I have already seen that she likes to self medicate her parents instead of taking them to the doctor. In general, I am a super closed person and I don't like to do favors if I find that the person can solve the situation alone. I have already told my mother several times to tell her that I am not going to answer her questions anymore, but my mom stops for a while and then asks me again. I doubt my mom has told her anything. She simply lied that I am too busy to respond. My partner, a 32 male, who is also a pharmacist, says that I am a bad person and that it doesn't cost me anything to respond. Am I the asshole if I tell my mother to tell her friend that she better take her parents to the doctor when they are sick and that she can go to her nearby pharmacy to ask the pharmacist directly? Info: this friend of my mother is not poor in any way. While my mother had me and my sister, she, the friend in question, got a university degree.
I just she should take her parents to the doctor, even if she doesn't want to. You can go to like a retail pharmacy and ask to talk to the pharmacist and get help by pharmacists who are getting paid to do that. It sounds like this isn't even this girl's job anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That she kind of just does behind the scenes paperwork stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you don't owe anybody anything. And it's not like it's her grandparents or her friends. It's like friend of a friend.
Yeah.
It just
See, my thoughts on that is if I was in this woman's situation and I don't know this person who's asking all these questions, I would not put myself liable
that too.
as far as answering medication questions because first off, she obviously knows nothing about the grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just too much. It's just too much of a liability to kind of rely on this woman uh, to make sure that she has all the right answers. Because, like she said, it's better off to just go to a professional doctor,
Right.
which I totally agree. Um, and I just like the self medicate your parents that are taking them to the doctor. Granted, I've never been in pharmacy. I've never done much with medicine, but I don't think I'd ever self medicate my
Your
parents.
elderly
Yeah,
parents.
my elderly parents.
Sounds like a bad idea too.
Yeah.
And it's not like they just asked this girl, one or two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that I could maybe see. But it sounds like they're doing this instead of getting actual professional advice geared towards the specific people. And that's where I'm like, no, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for asking someone who's, uh, I'll just use the word expert in the field, to at least get some feedback to make sure I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
Before going to, say, a doctor or
Right.
another pharmacist. I mean, some people, not too often, but will ask me about business related stuff and say, well, here's what I know.
Yeah.
Here's some other resources for you.
And sort of point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Send them on their way.
Mm-hmm.
Where Jaylene used to work in a pharmacy.
I did for 3 years.
She would always grab my hemorrhoid cream.
I didn't even know you had hemorrhoids.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's not
Patient
she
doctor
didn't know. She can't
confidentiality.
she couldn't she
Yeah.
wasn't able to discuss it at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
I made her sign an NDA.
I'm not licensed anymore, so I'm not sure if the HIPAA rules even apply to me. So But these two fellows did not get their prescriptions at Kroger, so fortunately I do not have any good dirt on them. Am I the asshole for ruining my brother-in-law's reputation by telling the truth to my friends? My in-laws are currently furious with me for hurting my brother-in-law's feelings and reputation with my friend group. Recently, my single brother-in-law, Chris, 38 male, has been hinting at me to introduce him to women, and I refused. Chris has been single for almost 3 years, and he has been having a hard time meeting women. He tried flirting with my friend, but she had been cold and non-receptive. This was my friend, Grace, 35 female. Grace is not interested in him due to his inability to be faithful, and she wasn't physically attracted to him. He tried to flirtatiously engage with her during a small party my husband and I had last Saturday. My husband got a long-awaited promotion, so we had a little party. During the party, Grace had grown frustrated with his insistent flirting and at some point told him in no uncertain terms that she found him physically ugly and that his physical ugliness is only surpassed by the ugliness of his character. She told him this in private, so no other guest had heard her scathing review of his personhood. Chris left the party the following afternoon while my husband and I were nursing a wicked hangover. My in laws, to my surprise, called to scold me for having abused and embarrassed Chris. After a few minutes of us shooting back and forth on the phone, I reminded my husband that handling his family was his job. So while my husband argued with his parents, I reviewed our security cameras. And honey, Grace verbally tore him apart. Grace reminded him that he cheated and divorced his late ex-wife, Lily, while she was battling cancer, and that he got dumped by the mistress for being a cheater and continued to cheat on her as well. Grace told him that he wasn't a man of any significant value other than the few coins he had in the bank, and that there's no way in hell she'd entertain his delusions of sexual grandeur and beauty. She also said the only thing he had going for him was his overbloated job title as an executive director to a third-rate company that will probably collapse in the next 5 years. As a parting gift, she told him to consider some cosmetic work to improve his haggard appearance and perhaps to start praying for divine intervention to fix his rotten soul, since there is no way a psychotherapist ever could come close to fixing whatever is wrong with him. My in-laws and Chris feel that I shouldn't have told my friends what Chris did because now he's perceived by my girlfriends as a terrible person. I told them he was unfortunately a terrible person and people would have always found out what happened between him and the great late Lily. I then discussed what happened with my colleague Natasha. She said I was cruel for having told my friend group about what happened between Chris and his ex-wife because Chris had grown a lot in the past 2 years and didn't need to be known for the worst thing he's ever done. Natasha is dating Chris's friend, so she also knows him.
Let me just say this before we dive into it. Grace is the MVP here.
Oh yeah,
This is the MVP.
She ripped him a new one.
and it sounded like well deserved.
Yes.
This whole story sounded like a Panic at the Disco song. That's just all I was imagining.
A song or a Panic at the Disco song title, because
Panic at this. We'll go with Panic song title, definitely.
just goes on and on.
Yep. Oh my gosh, but wow. This girl must have looked up a thesaurus in a dictionary at the same time.
Or she just like is really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, wow.
Do you not think women can be smart,
can
man?
be smart.
Listen, there's a lot of women out there smarter than me, so
Same.
so I would say that's not true. But man, that is some heavy tea right there.
Yeah.
And I don't fault her for telling her friend group about that stuff, because I mean, when you got the tea, you gotta spill
we
it.
do not spill it. It doesn't sound like she's just going on to like anybody to spill it.
Yeah.
It's just it seems to be like her close girlfriends.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Grace wasn't even going to bring all this up until I'm sure he was just constantly like flirting. You know how some guys get. Well, I don't know if you guys know how some guys
Yeah,
get.
I've been hit on by guys before. Do you think?
No, I know you have. I know this. I know the stories. It's just, but some guys can be really, just determined and get a little creepy and to be too much. And sometimes you just got to tell them how it is.
And then the other friend, Natasha,
Yeah.
playing devil advocates here. I
Yeah.
can kind of see where she's like, well, Chris has grown a lot since she does hang around him.
Mhm.
But still, to be like, oh, how can you fault him for something that's a big thing?
That's a big thing to do.
A huge thing.
Your wife has cancer and you're cheating on her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're just not a nice person.
Yes, some things can't be forgiven
Yeah.
or forgotten. That's one of those. Cheating's already bad enough, but when it's with a dying
With a dying spouse, yeah.
And then having the mistress dump you almost immediately after.
Yeah, because you're cheating on her also.
Yeah.
The girl, like the narrator of the story, is the way to go.
Mm-mm.
And it's like, yeah, maybe she shouldn't have told her friends. I could maybe see somebody's point on that, but at the same time, it's like, no, because I tell you guys, stuff about my family and hot gossip.
Mhm.
Just you gotta tell your buds.
I always appreciate the tea.
Yeah. Tegan's not a gossiper.
I indulge in the tea.
But Tegan is the first person. If he sees that someone has a hint of tea,
I got my gallon ready. I'm ready to drink it.
Matthew too. Matthew likes to indulge in a little tea.
Yeah.
So
Every time we hang out, I go, "What's the tea?"
yeah, and usually someone has something.
Would I be the asshole for telling my friend her soon-to-be-born baby's name is a horrible mistake? I, 27 female, have a friend, 29 female, who I will call Sarah for the sake of this post. Her husband, 31 male, will be John Jacob. 1 year ago, Sarah had a very terrible miscarriage late in her pregnancy and gave birth to a stillborn. She had named the baby and been very bravely public about her loss and buried the child with a tombstone with his name, John Jacob II, named after his father. Fast forward to this past weekend, we have a baby shower for Sarah as she is pregnant again with a boy and doing very well. During the baby shower, she announces the name of her soon-to-be-born son, John Jacob III. Mostly everyone was able to be instantly ecstatic, but unfortunately, I could not calibrate my reaction quick enough, and she noticed. She has been very distant since. A few other people who attended the baby shower texted me afterwards to share they are equally shocked by the name. I will eventually have to talk to my friend, and she will 100% bring it up. Would I be the asshole if I told her that naming her son after her stillborn would be a very cruel thing to do to a child?